it's not like they haven't been looking for a solid second option to go with Amari Cooper for the last 3 years. They failed with David Bell. They failed with Cedric Tillman. They failed with Elijah Moore last year. So they gave up trying to fail by making a bunch of mediocre picks.
If you hit on a sleeper late in your fantasy drafts, you are drastically going to improve your chances at winning your league. Remember, last year we got names like Gus Edwards, Nico Collins, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, Jaden Reed. These are players that were sleepers that absolutely were on championship rosters. So today, we've got 7 of the best fantasy experts in the world telling you those sleepers you should draft this year. We're starting with, obviously, the Domain Fantasy Football guys, and we're starting here with Avery.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate that because I am one of the 7 best fantasy football experts in the world. Clearly, anybody who knows me knows that I'm
100%. That's why we're all here.
Definitely not an idiot. But,
exactly.
In that, with that being said, Mooney's my guy this year. Actually,
okay.
I think Mooney's the next Puka. I'm kidding. The next Puka stuff drives me nuts.
The comment section's going crazy.
Yeah, I know you're right. But with Mooney, I mean, this is a guy. Obviously, you've seen him do it, right? You've seen him in a high volume role be productive for fantasy football, and that was obviously with the Chicago Bears. And now Darnell Mooney goes to an offense, into a situation where you have Drake London as the wide receiver 1, where you have Kyle Pitts as the tight end 1 there, right? And you have Kirk Cousins, who is the quarterback. Supposedly, hopefully, probably, right? I mean,
probably.
Unless you're a Penix conspiracy theorist. But you have Kirk Cousins, who is the quarterback there. And Kirk Cousins has a history, at least going back to his Minnesota days, right?
Sure.
Where he's kind of entered his prime, has a history of supporting multiple productive fantasy assets in the passing game. I mean, you go back even to last year. When Kirk Cousins was healthy, Hawk was a tight end 1. Jefferson was a tight end 1. Addison at that point was trending to be like a wide receiver 2. I mean, it probably would Addison have finished as a wide receiver 2, maybe not. But actually, I mean, he did.
He probably,
So he probably would have still with Cousins. And I mean, so this is a quarterback that can support multiple productive fantasy receivers. And with Mooney, I mean, you're getting him at like wide receiver 63, 64 prices right now.
He's like the 14th.
I think he's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, I think he is the wide receiver 2 on a Kirk Cousins offense, on an offense where I'm much more comfortable buying into them this year. I'm much more comfortable drafting Drake London where he's being drafted. And Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is a great value, but Mooney is kind of, the third guy there. You had Rondale Moore there. Rondale Moore was thought, okay, maybe he could come in and do something. He, showed flashes in his first couple of years.
He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that now that I have everything I need in terms of the situation in Atlanta to take Mooney and just to bet that he's going to get enough volume to maybe be flexible week in, week out.
Sure.
And you also got to remember he is, if he is the wide receiver 2 there, even though Kyle Pitts, effectively functions as a wide receiver, Mooney at that point is an injury away from probably getting some pretty serious volume from Kirk Cousins.
An offense that should throw the ball a lot more with the changes at head coach, offensive coordinator.
Yes.
You know who Mooney reminds me of? I could see this connection maybe. Washington fan, right? I remember back to the Kirk Cousins days in Washington. Jamison Crowder.
Yeah.
I see a little Jamison Crowder vibes, if you guys remember that. And there were some very valuable, especially PPR formats, weeks from him. So I like it. Darnell Mooney, especially if you're in a deeper league, look to target him. All right, we've got Mason Dodd here from Flock Fantasy. And obviously, let's talk about a sleeper. We talked about this beforehand. I like this.
My guy, everything has gone wrong for this player that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Trouble with the law. Trouble with this quarterback. Situation way worse than it was last year.
Yep.
But I'm drafting him. You know what? Because I don't like winning money. But we're taking Jordan Addison. If you look at Addison, I acknowledge, yes, situation could not be worse. You're going from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold. Justin Jefferson missed time last year. But at the end of the day, if you look at the profile that Jordan Addison had, round 1 NFL draft pick, former Biletnikoff winner, where he comes in, and if you look at his historical comps, his rookie season, he profiles to be someone that would be a candidate to be a low-end wide receiver 1 this next year. And the thing is, to the point where he's fallen, where in some drafts you are getting him in rounds 9, rounds 10, rounds 11, it's okay in my mind to go ahead, take the risk, and just go, what if Darnold is better than we expect?
Yeah.
I
agree.
You're really kind of betting on Darnold in that instance, though.
I absolutely agree. I did research on a video for this just recently. He's one of 3 receivers in the last 25 years to have 70 receptions, 900 receiving yards, and 10-plus touchdowns. The other 2 guys, Odell Beckham Jr., and I believe the other one was Justin Jefferson, if I'm not mistaken.
Either Jefferson or Chase.
It's one of those 2, or Jamar Chase. But, I like the take a lot. I think, we have to think about this from the perspective of value versus where they're on the board. You're right. Like if Kirk Cousins was there, where does he go?
Well, I legitimately think if obviously big if, I understand this is not the case, but if Cousins was there, if you had no trouble with the law, I think I would be making the case for Jordan Addison going round 3 or round 4, and he is going 6 rounds after that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you're trying to get here in this video, right? The needle in the haystack. What if Jefferson goes down again? What if Sam Darnold is actually good? Right? What if Kevin O'Connell is just a god and knows how to scheme up plays? So, all right, a double dip with Domain Fantasy Football. Obviously, we've got Nathan here. Your sleeper of the year.
Double dip Domain. I like that. That's pretty great.
DDD.
I also like Jerry Jeudy in the 11th round right now. I think he has ended up being one of the better values in fantasy when you're looking at the deeper rounds here, because I'm just looking for a wide receiver with the quickest route to being a top 2 option in his respective offense. And with Jeudy, I think we're past the point of expecting him to have this crazy wide receiver 1 alpha breakout. And now it's finally being reflected in his price. But when you're looking at Cleveland, it's not like they haven't been looking for a solid second option to go with Amari Cooper for the last 3 years. They failed with David Bell. They failed with Cedric Tillman. They failed with Elijah Moore last year. So they gave up trying to fail by making a bunch of mediocre picks and moves in free agency. Yeah. And they went and they paid a significant amount of money to Jerry Jeudy, which I don't think should be overlooked.
Yeah,
I view this contract very similar to like Christian Kirk a couple years ago.
That's good.
Where like at face value, you're like, this dude got overpaid. What has he really done to prove that he deserves this money? And I think you're kind of thinking the same thing with Jeudy this year. And I'm like, okay, I mean, TBD. We'll see what actually happens with him and if he was worth it. But they called their shot with Jerry Jeudy, and I think they are going to heavily invest in trying to get him the volume that he never really got in Denver.
He's a very, very affordable wide receiver too, and I wonder it's probably honestly it probably does make an impact when Steve Smith last year just roasted him, absolutely destroyed his career. I think it became like the cool thing to absolutely trash on Jerry Jeudy. Do you know what I mean?
He could be a wide receiver. He's a tier 3.
So I think that's made him like a very, because it's not a cool pick anymore. It's not a sexy pick. You're not taking Jerry Jeudy like, oh my God, I just got Jerry Jeudy on my team. But you're right, there could be clear value. They paid him money, they traded for him, they need a wide receiver too. So I like this take a lot. All right, the Domain boys always killing it. All right, we got the stock exchange, fantasy stock exchange here with Corey. Corey, a sleeper that you can think help when people win leagues.
Yeah, I think my favorite sleeper in all of fantasy this year, you're getting a sneak peek. I put out a big video every year on my top sleepers. J.K. Dobbins is my number 1 dude. It's a run-heavy offense. It's an open backfield. Gus Edwards, older, fine goal line guy, but not really a special talent. Kamani Vidal, failing to work his way up the depth chart so far. Great offensive line. They invested in that. Great quarterback, Justin Herbert. Coach wants to run the football. J.K. Dobbins in years past has been the type of dude who can elevate a rushing offense. He's been a 5 yards per touch type of dude when he's been on the field. When he's been on the field has been the problem.
Sure. So I guess we do have to talk about that then. I remember back to the Cam Akers days, the Achilles injury. I was like, I'm out. If you got an Achilles, I'm completely out. Now, if you remember, Cam Akers was a 3rd-round pick, right? 2nd-round pick. So what do you feel about the Achilles? Do you have any information like that the haters out there are going to push back on?
Yeah, I mean, just because we haven't seen something happen medically yet doesn't mean it can't happen. That's what a lot of doctors always say. Second of all, like you said, it is price dependent. If J.K. Dobbins was a 5th rounder, I would not be drafting him. He's a 13th, 14th, 15th rounder for most people.
So
he's
cheap.
Going very inexpensively. So that's where I'm at with Dobbins. This is price dependent, obviously. If he was a 9th round pick even, I wouldn't even be in on him. So for me, it's coming at a cost that I feel very stomachable at that point in time. And not to mention, too, like, there is the possibility that somebody bucks this trend. It's happened in other sports. There's been productive, basketball players coming off of Achilles tears. We got 2 quarterbacks coming off of one. I get it. Running back's been a challenging position for it specifically. But when you're checking boxes medically, you need young running backs. Got to check box there. You need elite athleticism. Guy ran like 4.3 when he was coming out of the draft. Like, he checks the boxes as somebody that could buck this trend. And again, if he doesn't, cut him and turn the waiver wire.
Yeah. No, I like that. And, I think we have to remember the changes this year with the Chargers, right? This is not a team that's pass heavy anymore. They've got Jim Harbaugh. They've got Greg Roman. Both of those guys in the moments where they've led offenses in the NFL every single year, over 30 rushing attempts per game. So I think it's a good shout. Don't sleep on J.K. Dobbins now. All right, we got the other side of the fantasy stock exchange duo here. Obviously, Danny, let's talk about your sleeper of the year.
Yeah, my sleeper, a guy going in the later rounds, particularly, the rounds 15, 16 area, a guy that, quite frankly, you can end in the last round of your drafts is Tyrone Tracy, running back for the New York Giants. This is a guy that I loved in the pre-draft cycle, a guy that created 71% of his rush yards at Purdue this year, making people miss, yards created darling, and lands in a perfect situation where, yes, there is an incumbent starter in front of him with Devin Singletary. He did face his injury concern in the preseason. I believe it was an ankle sprain. Thought not to be serious, expected to go by the start of the season. And with Tyrone Tracy, like I said, tackle-breaking machine. Does he have to learn the nuances of playing the running back position? Sure. Again, he's an inexperienced player in that regard. But when you have a guy that has the natural make-you-miss talent, converted receiver, so we know he's good in the passing game, in a situation with the Giants that, quite frankly, like I said, Devin Singletary is not stopping me from taking a talented running back. So although I do think at the start of the year, Devin Singletary, weeks 4, weeks 5, sure, he should be the main running back. But I do think as the season plays along, Tyrone Tracy gets more involved in this offense. Rookie player, finds his footing, especially as a rusher between the tackles. He has the opportunity and the talent to be able to thrive. And again, for a last-round investment on a guy with this level of talent, a guy that I had as a top 5 running back in this class, my RB4 in the class, landing in this type of situation, man, he is one of my favorite priority handcuffs to have. And like I said, down the stretch, week 5, week 6, week 7 on, if I were to make a bet for who has the opportunity to supplant their starter, I think Tyrone Tracy is one of my main guys.
I really like it. And he's an underrated pass catcher as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very good out of the backfield. So if he, I think he could be the third down back sooner than later. And if anything were to happen to Devin, he could get a lot of opportunities. Now, obviously, the offense isn't very good. That's what people are going to say. So what's your reply to that? Is it just it's a 15th round pick?
I mean, at the end of the day, again, yes, it is the last pick of your fantasy drafts. And like you said, he is a converted receiver. He did play there, obviously, at Iowa before Purdue. So he does have the natural ability to be able to play on third down, to be able to split out wide if he needs to. So on a team that we don't expect to be quite good with the New York Giants, no offense, Badoc, no offense, but on a team that we don't expect to be too good, getting those third down opportunities, a guy that can create in space is the target I'm targeting every single time. So
I like it.
Again, last round. Take us out.
Daniel Jones coming off an ACL tear might not be as mobile as he used to be, so that's something to consider as well. But all right, we appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thanks,
man.
You're good. Thanks.
All right, so those are the sleepers that the best fantasy experts are drafting this year. If you hit on a sleeper, your chance at winning your league is just going to drastically rise. So do not miss out on these players. Last thing I'll say is if you're in a draft in the next couple weeks, in the next couple days, and you want to know exactly what I would do when you're on the draft board, you can go ahead and get our cheat sheet on the Flock Fantasy website by using the promo code LAND and becoming a mother flocker. Remember, it's got my guys, it's got boom bust, it's got fades, it's got sleepers, and it's all the positional rankings. But go kill your drafts. Last round, you make that pick and people are like, who the hell is that? Well, because you watched this video. We appreciate you. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.